This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Welcome back to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Jack O'Brien, your host. And firstly, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. We have another guest episode today, so I'll introduce our guest shortly. And for those who are leaving reviews and ratings over on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it is that you listen, we are eternally grateful. We read every single one of them, and they help us get our message out to more allied health clinic owners. So we are super appreciative of that. If you need any of the show notes from this or previous episodes, you can head to clinicmastery.com/podcast. We'll have all of the show notes there from this episode, previous episodes, and for our guest today, we'll make sure we link up all of his socials. And I can tell you, I've got the inside scoop. This is one Instagram profile that you do want to be following. We have on the podcast today, Jonathan Steedman. Jono, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. So Jono is an accredited practicing dietitian, currently working and consulting out of the Sports Dietitian up in the sunny state of Queensland. Been a friend of mine for a long time, and he is one of the Instagram accounts that I will make sure I check out every day if I can. It's
kind words.
Your content is absolutely unreal. Not only that, you're obviously a brilliant accredited practicing dietitian, and I'm really interested to lean into your insights around how we as business leaders can get the best out of our nutrition for what it is that we do. And specifically, as we record this, it is late March 2020, and we are in the thick of COVID, and so many health professionals are now working from home. And I think your insights on nutrition and diet while working from home will be fascinating. So we've got a few threads to pull on. Jono, is that all right if we do that today?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, before we get into that, I've got a couple of icebreakers. So, number one, what are you reading or learning right now?
I'm reading two books at the moment. I'm reading a exercise physiology textbook in the morning, Catch McCardle, the classic of the genre. And then in the evenings, Terry Pratchett novel. I'm working my way through all of his for like the 10th time. I can't even remember which one I'm reading, but just a good way to wind down in the evening.
Love it. Number two, who inspires you?
Martin McDonald is a great nutritionist out of the UK. He runs Mac Nutrition Uni, which is a pretty, it's kind of equivalent to like Precision Nutrition, one of those online courses. Just about Lane Norton, a lot of the evidence-based guys, I guess, on Instagram and social media, just promoting information that's legitimate, because there's too much of the opposite out there. So
yeah, especially in your field, I think all of us across allied health experience different qualities and levels of information. So it is tricky to find people who are espousing evidence-based and legitimate content, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Number three, what did you want to be growing up?
I wanted to be a doctor, and then I wanted to be a rock star. And now I'm a dietitian.
You got the hairstyle for a rock star for sure.
Oh, God, I think just trying to like vicariously live through.
That's it.
Through that.
You also forgot to mention that you're a wannabe powerlifter as well, right?
Oh, a very, very wannabe. I would say I'm a wannabe strongman now.
Okay.
So I've jumped ship a little bit. I've joined the other team. I just got sick of getting puffed walking upstairs. So thought I should do some level of cardio. So
yeah. And finally, mate, what's a motto that you live by?
For the longest time. So I actually have one now purely because of listening to your podcast. And then when finding out I was going to be on here, I was like, man, I better have an answer to this question. And I think I just had to like put something into words that I was probably already trying to work towards. It's like, it's my fault. That's probably what I try and work on, and not in a negative sense, but I think it's very easy, or at least it was for myself as a practitioner, when you get a difficult client or you get particularly a non-compliant client. Those are the big ones. Really easy to find all the reasons why it's the client's fault. And whether it is or not, there's always something that I've done that I should improve on. So it's fairly recent, but it's been selling pretty well. Yeah.
It's awesome. It reminds me of that Jocko Willink book, Extreme Ownership, and taking responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
All right. So paint me the picture then of how did we end up here, from the little kid who wanted to be the doctor /rock star to now dare I say, an Instagram influencer. And,
I don't think I'm an influencer.
I think after this
yet.
podcast, you could pick up 1,000 new followers off the back of this podcast.
I need to work out what my first swipe up will be then. I think it's important. Yeah. Halfway through year 12, I was doing medicine. I was going to do medicine, did all the sciences, going to do that, picked up the guitar, and then decided I really liked music. And for some crazy reason, my parents and my music teacher, my parents talked me out of doing medicine and talked me into doing music at the conservatorium, which I did, and then taught it for a little while. Realized that there's not too much work out there for a wannabe rock star. Have always liked health and fitness, always been surrounded by food at home. And then always liked the science side of things, and dietetics was just that beautiful mix of creative thinking, but also lots of science. And yeah, I'm stoked. I could not think of another career that I would be terrible at anything else. So
no, you're obviously very good at your job. And so tell us about your ideal type of client or patient.
To be honest, my ideal client is just the everyday kind of gym warrior, someone trying to get active. And I'm particularly passionate about those that have been given questionable advice. I get lots of clients coming in that haven't had a potato for 6 months, have cut out bread, they're avoiding all of these foods. And I kind of always make the joke of, I think I came at dietetics from the angle of food rather than health. Not that health isn't important, but
sure,
my first love is food. So I really like being able to guide that client through how they can hit their goals while still eating things outside of chicken and broccoli and brown rice. So yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, I'm really excited to pull on a few of these threads, but let's talk nutrition for performance. So, you mentioned the gym goer and the gym warrior. So many of our listeners will be health professionals that really value their health. And so I think that will resonate, but also they're business owners. They're carrying a lot of mental load and cognitive load. So I don't know, what are some of the mistakes maybe that you see people make when it comes to food and performance, whether physical or cognitive?
Yeah, well, the good news is, I guess, performance for most settings, whether it be physical or as a business owner, are very closely linked. So things that are going to improve your general health and your overall performance in the gym are also going to be things that flow into improving, your cognitive function, your ability to learn, your ability to memorize things and that sort of thing. So a lot of the initial recommendations I'll probably talk through anyway will be, I might sound like your mum. I might sound a bit boring telling you all the things that people know they should be doing. I think probably the first one, and that I see all of the time, is just around eating patterns throughout the day. Right. It's really, really easy to just get distracted, and particularly as a business owner, I imagine you're getting pulled in a million directions at once. Before you know it, you had breakfast at 6, it's 3 p.m, you haven't eaten all day, you're running on caffeine. I'm probably resonating with a few people. Yeah. So it's not uncommon for that to be the case. And yeah, unfortunately that can kind of hamstring you a little bit. Just relating a little bit to your blood sugar in general and trying to maintain that fairly evenly and avoiding big spikes up and crashes as well. And unfortunately, if we go really long periods of time without eating, blood sugar can kind of tank a little bit. That drives us to eat. And we can all think about the sorts of lunches we eat at 3 p.m. They're probably quite different to the sorts of lunches we eat at, 12:30 when we're not starving. And then that gets in that vicious cycle of, we probably eat a meal that's too big, maybe containing a few things that, are going to give us a really quick hit of energy. But unfortunately, generally the quicker the hit, the sharper the drop. So looking for regular eating, it is flexible. Some people need to eat every 2 hours, some people need to eat every 4 to 5 hours, but really it's about, we do need some kind of routine around that. Because if we let it go too far, we get too hungry, we reach for something and then we crash, and then we get too hungry and reach for something, we just get in that vicious cycle. And you're not going to be performing at your peak if you're hungry.
Yeah, sure. And I get that it's quite tricky to give specific advice for sure. But can you maybe speak to us around some of the foods that might be helpful? Although most health professionals will be active, we do spend a lot of time in front of a laptop and running spreadsheets and dashboards. So what are some foods maybe we should avoid or consider moderating? And what are some foods that we can go to town on?
Yeah. So in terms of avoiding, it's a combination of the types of foods and also the portions. So really high fat meals and really high simple carbohydrate meals. So more of your processed carbohydrates. So particularly, soft drinks, lollies, fruit juices, And also when it comes to your grains, erring on the brown end of the spectrum versus the white end of the spectrum. Not to say that that white rice is bad, but if you're having a massive curry at lunchtime with a ton of white rice and that it's got lots of fat, massive portion of just food in general, that's probably going to contribute to that 330itis, that big slump.
Yep.
So the first thing would be looking at making sure that the portion itself is not too large and reaching for things like, so I told you this is mum speaking, your veggies, whole grains as well. So things like whole grain bread, potatoes, oats, brown rice, things that are going to give us a more sustained release of energy instead of those sorts of spikes. Fruit is another fantastic option as well, particularly if it's paired with other things. But those are more the sorts of things that we want to be aiming for rather than the more processed sorts of carbohydrates or high-fat meals.
It's unreal. And I know that I've changed some of my eating habits based off your Instagram stuff. So for listeners, head over to Jono's Instagram. Actually, what is your handle, mate?
It's at Jono, Jono, Steedman, Steedman.
Yeah, we'll link that up in the show notes. But just in terms of what to swap things in and out and what we can go nuts on and what to moderate has been, super useful for me personally and trying to optimize my performance. Let's talk about supplements or some of the more left of center concepts when it comes to, cognitive performance and diet. Are there any place for supplements when it comes to those sorts of things?
Yeah, the important thing, and most listeners would probably be familiar with just supplements in general, being in that if the diet is a bit of a train wreck, if sleep is non-existent, then if I find it, I'll totally tell you because I'm looking for it. I'm looking for the supplement that will replace those. But really the supplements, they need to enhance what's already there. So obviously we want to make sure we've got that groundwork there. In saying that, supplements around cognitive function and sort of focus and productivity they are a bit tricky. It's still a new area. Most of the research is, rats or mechanistic stuff. So there's not too many strong recommendations we can make. So in saying that, the first couple, there are strong recommendations we can make. Caffeine. Shock. I bet no one saw that coming.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. So it's all good news. Essentially, as we're all familiar, caffeine, increases your alertness and your ability to concentrate. So definitely, I think we've just kind of moved up to around 5 cups a day is still within the realm of
good news.
Fine. A little bit of it is dependent on the person. Everyone metabolizes it differently. If you find that you get jittery after having caffeine, then you probably need to dial that back a little bit.
Yep.
And being familiar as well with the fact that caffeine has a half-life of sort of 5 to 6 hours. So being wary of when your last caffeinated drink is in the day, because it is going to affect that sleep. But other than that, a couple of 100 milligrams of caffeine, which is roughly 200 milligrams would be a big dose, and that's probably a large energy drink or like a double shot of coffee with milk. Jack has sassed me in the past about having milk with my coffee. It doesn't affect its ability to perform, increase your performance. But other than that, caffeine is a really, really good option. And a little sneaky thing that you can pair it with as well is theanine. So it occurs naturally in green tea, but if you supplement with it, it can kind of sort of potentiate or like smooth out the effects of caffeine. So some people who find that the caffeine, they get a really nice buzz, but then kind of a crash. Theanine can kind of smooth that out and make that kind of a little bit more even and prolonged rather than that. So that's another little thing that people can play around with, the caffeine and theanine combo.
That's awesome. I've personally found that. Theanine does definitely help to regulate caffeine.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that there's not a lot of strong evidence behind some of the alternative things like nootropics or maybe some of the mushroom blends, lion's mane, those sorts of things. Is there a place for dabbling in that world?
Yeah, to be honest, I looked into the mushrooms. I was really excited. I probably wouldn't bother with mushrooms at this stage. Ones that I would look at, there's kind of 2 different families that I would look at. There's ones that can help cope with stress and anxiety in general. And so obviously if you're stressed and anxious, that is going to affect your ability to lead, make quick decisions, and to be at your peak mentally. So 2 of the big supplements that you could look at playing around with there are called adaptogens. So these are a family of herbs that help your body respond a little bit more effectively to stress. The two big ones that I would be looking at are ashwagandha and rhodiola rosea. I don't think I've ever pronounced that smoothly off the bat. So there we go. And those two, you're aiming for like kind of 300 to 500 milligrams, just kind of have that with a meal in the morning, and they can help just increase your body's ability to cope with stress. And so you're going to be more level. Again, I guess they are one that you can play around with, because you should pretty quickly realize in a week or two, like, I'm still feeling exactly the same as I did. Awesome. For most of them, you're looking at kind of $20-$30 a bottle. So if that fits in with your budget, it's not a huge investment to trial them out. Those would be the two I'd be looking at from the anxiety side of things. And then from the other style of supplements. So basically choline, which is really important for it helps development of memory and learning. And so we can get it from our diet, but there's also two supplements that can help increase our levels of it. So alpha GPC can give us more choline as well, so help make more of that neurotransmitter essentially. And then huperzine A is another one which can prevent the breakdown of that neurotransmitter. So potentially getting more acetylcholine hanging out for longer, allowing us to hopefully, lay down a bit of extra memory, learn a bit more, function a bit sharper.
Awesome. There's a lot to process. The dietitians love their long, complicated words.
I know. I try to simplify it, but everyone makes them like huperzine A and rhodiola rosea, they're always words, but
finally, on the performance element, what about immunity? And so I saw the other day you mentioned Armour Force, which people might be familiar with. Is there a place for immune boosting things?
There is, but most of them again come back to the boring level of what we are aiming to do with our immune system is just not reducing its potential, because really what it is it's going to operate at full or less. We can't kind of take it above full, and in actual fact, taking it above full is where we get autoimmune conditions. So fortunately, that's hard to do. But what you want is like things that are going to support that immune system. And again, it's mostly around sleep, vitamins and minerals coming from supplements in terms of your vitamin C, zinc. Those sorts of things are mostly useful if our diet is lacking in them. So again, popping a pill of those before you feel like you're going to get sick or in kind of these sorts of difficult times is maybe not a waste of time. But essentially the main things you are going to be wanting to focus on are your sleep and also just, stress just in general. So trying to make sure that you're really prioritizing that self-care, whatever that looks like for you. You're prioritizing your vitamins and your minerals and your hydration. The elephant in the room is March 2020, like we've discussed, COVID-19, and the fact that this is a completely new virus. Yes, we have dealt with other coronaviruses in the past, but we just want to be wary of painting with that broad brush. So realistically, we want to do the boring stuff to support our immune system and wash our hands.
That's good insight. Awesome. Thank you so much. There's plenty to take out of that. Let's talk about working from home. And then I really want to press on some of the Instagram and influencer stuff that's been really helpful for you. So now that we're all working from home and arguably not eating out perhaps as much, although still important to try and support any takeaways where we can or home deliveries. What are some tips for maybe those that haven't had to cook much previously and now they've been hoarding at the grocery stores and it's time to cook their own foods and snacking away at the desk, those sorts of things. Have you got any thoughts around that?
Yeah. So the first is around snacking. Like snacking is fantastic. It is a double-edged sword though. It can work for us or against us depending on the way that we do it. And particularly when we're at home, it's a bit trickier because the pantry's right there. Whereas when we're at work, we're kind of removed from those sorts of things. So I find you're going to feel super lame, but I don't care. If you pack your lunch and your snacks at the beginning of the day in the exact same way that you would if you were to be taking that day's worth of food to work, the goal is you don't want to have to actually go into your pantry until close of business, right? Accessing other food. So if it's out, it's on the bench or it's on your desk, you know that, hey, this is my food for the day. And we've all probably experienced when we're at work and we've got a bit of a lunchbox or we've got a bit of a controlled food amount. It's way easier to stay on point with that. We're just trying to mirror that at home, essentially, and that goes as well for lunch.
Love it. Is there any benefit to eating at your desk or changing locations? Is that a factor, do you think?
It's huge. It's one thing I talk about even when people are in the office. It's just, I guess, when we're at home, we're lucky. We can hopefully step away a little bit more easily. And so taking that time away from that screen to sit, actually eat the meal, you'll actually get to taste it. You'll actually get to chew it slowly. You won't feel rushed. It's far more likely to be satisfying and filling. You're far more likely to be satisfied for longer. So you're not kind of reaching for that snack 30 minutes later. You're not kind of searching through the pantry. And so, yeah, definitely trying to step away at the very least for lunch. But if we can step away for our snacks, then even better.
Yeah, interesting. Off the top of your head, like what are some good quick meals? Maybe we've got the chance to now cook our own lunch instead of, maybe a sandwich. So what are some good quick cooking meals that we could think about?
Yep. So obviously pending supermarket availability or food availability in your area. So I guess on that, frozen, canned, dried vegetables are all just as nutritious as fresh. But in saying that, I don't know what it's like down there, but fresh vegetables are actually kind of in abundance because everyone's gone for the other ones. So even like simple slow cooker meals where you've got like a protein and a veg and some kind of complex carbohydrate that we were talking about before, like the brown rice or the potato. So like one of my go-tos is like a cottage pie, because you can put, you've got your mince and your beans and things underneath. You've got your potato on top, you've got your veggies. You can just do a steam pack of veggies and you can make a massive tray of it. You can knock out a week's worth of lunches in one go. Other big pot meals like a big stir fry, a big curry, or baked meals. So ovens are great because you can lay one whole tray of chicken breast or one whole tray of fish, because you can eat fish because you're at home now, so you're not going to stink out the office. And then, the tray underneath is just all your veg. And, in 30 minutes of oven time, which you don't even need to be in the kitchen for on a Sunday, you can kind of whack out a whole week's worth of lunches in that way as well. So yeah, looking for the big altogether meals, like saucy sorts of meals, or those are really good options.
Unreal. Awesome. Thank you. Let's shift into Instagram land. So you've done an absolutely unreal job. Again, we'll link it up in the show notes for listeners, but definitely check out Jono's Instagram. Can you maybe tell us what's been the outcome? Have you, obviously there's a level of fame and notoriety, but in terms of publicity, or maybe has it been good for business?
It's definitely good.
Like Curtis Stone in Coles, right?
Yeah, it's rough. Hey, no, it's definitely good for business, and also whether that be business from generating clients, but also generating referrals with other allied health practitioners. Like I've got a very close link with an exercise physiology team, and so we can refer back and forth, and that kind of has developed over social media. And I think as well, one thing I've been noticing recently is not just attracting clients, but then when clients come there already a little bit, the buy-in is already kind of there. It's like even before the consult starts, they feel like they know you, they feel like they've kind of know what you're about, they've got an idea of your voice, not just obviously actual audio, but the way that you present, the way that you communicate. And so I've found definitely that that's helped. And because of that, I think it really aids with that building of rapport. So, you still have to work on it in the consult itself, but definitely they come in with the rapport kind of already starting to be built, and you're just kind of working from there. So I've definitely noticed, compared to, say, 12 months ago, the rapport at the beginning of a consult is, or even now I can tell when someone has found me via our website versus someone who's found me via Instagram, because it's just a different vibe from the day dot.
I've noticed a couple of other things that you do with Instagram. So you answer so many questions. You do a lot of polls. You answer questions in detail and basically give away most of your best knowledge. Has that ever come back to bite you, or has that impacted business positively or negatively?
I don't know. I don't know how many clients I've lost. Hey, you never work. You don't know about the ones that got away. No, I think I remember talking with a good friend about that being kind of like, well, if I give everything away, like, why would they bother coming and paying me? And I think she gave me, is it jab, 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 right hook? The Gary V book. Yeah, I don't think that's the name of the book, I think, but just that premise. I don't have too many defining moments, I don't think, in the whole dietetic career path, but that was one of them, when I just realized that you give people so much information that when I do turn around and ask for something, they can't possibly say no, because it's like, oh, you've given me everything I need. And I also think as well, particularly a lot of the things with dietetics, is it's not just knowledge that people are after. People think they're after knowledge. They come to you for knowledge, but they realize what they are actually after is relationship and problem solving, and someone to kind of work them through that / teach them how to do it themselves. So I find that most of the stuff on Instagram is just knowledge, and I'm happy for I want everyone to have that, like I said, so they can hopefully make better decisions. But then the conversion comes from when people realize, I know that I shouldn't eat Macca's 5 times a week. What does that look like in reality?
Gotcha. What about types of content? So you do a lot of different story types, you do a lot of feed or post types. What's worked really well for you?
Story definitely gets more eyeballs, gets more responses. I both love and hate the swipe up react, because it fills the inbox pretty quickly, but tons of engagement through that. So definitely stories. And I recently started doing Q&As and getting my ugly mug on there and talking to the camera, which I fought for the longest time because I'm an idiot, because that's definitely been, again, that just another jump in, like people are engaged and interested and sending questions. And then you find that they're reaching out other times of the week with just random questions, which is good, because obviously it means they view you as a bit of a good source of knowledge. So yeah, I mean, posts are important. Posts get shares, and I found that that's been huge, making content that gets shared. I don't care about like the likes at all. And I'm not saying that in terms of I'm just doing it because I love it, man. I care much more about how often my posts get shared. So I'm much more frequently looking through the shared post function rather than how many likes I got, because all of my posts that have kind of been shared by really big accounts and have, gained me lots more traction, have generally in the posts that I wasn't very I was like, I just need to get something up. I'll just kind of throw that up. And the posts I'm really proud of, no one cares about. But the post that I just didn't think was much, that gets a share. And all it takes is that one share that puts it in front of a whole new audience.
Have you had that one magic share?
I did. I had a share where it was actually, I was giving a workshop and I checked my phone before the workshop, and then I went up and I think it was about a 45-minute talk, and I came back to my phone and I thought that my Instagram had broken. I'd gotten sort of 300-400 followers or something in the time that I was at the workshop, and it was not a big workshop. There was only 20 people at the workshop, so it wasn't that. Yeah, I just messaged a few of the new followers because I couldn't even work out where it had come from. And I just said, because it was an old post, it was a post I posted a couple of weeks ago. It was a nothing post, but it got in front of obviously plenty of people, and it kind of exploded. And then that generally the big accounts are friends with other big accounts. So if they share something, you kind of get a little bit of buy-in from a few other big accounts, and you kind of break into a little bit of of their community, I guess. So that's happened a couple of times, which has been really good as well.
You do a lot of good networking with, like you say, that little community, that pod of your peers, might I say. How deliberate are you on the networking of Instagram, and whether that's reaching out to colleagues or influencers, that sort of stuff? Is it deliberate?
To be honest, it's not. Mostly because I've never worked out a way to do it that wouldn't feel insincere. I'd do it in a way that felt sincere. I always felt like it would be a bit plenty of people can do it. I'm not saying that it's a bad strategy. I know that I can't. And I think that's probably been the biggest thing that I've done with Instagram and just social media in general, is I kind of made that deal from the day one. It's like, I'm just going to be myself. I know it's cliched, but I'm not going to do anything that feels funny, feels out of line with the way I view it. And just reaching out in that way didn't feel right. And in a way that's really helped, because it's made social media kind of easy, because I'm not thinking through a lens when I jump on there. I'm like, what do I want to talk about today? What do I want to say? How do I want to say it? Off I go, So yeah, not knocking that strategy at all, but I think definitely making sure that it's a strategy that aligns with your personality is important. And I don't think it works for me.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So, for context, listeners, Jono's got nearly 10,000 followers, a bit over 8,000 followers. And the content engagement is ridiculous for what is often pretty with respect, is pretty simple advice. It's meat and veg and whole grains, and drink more water and get more sleep. The way you are able to present that does.
We got to try and make
wonders.
it sexy somehow.
You do a great job. So definitely recommend checking out Jono's Instagram. Mate, we might land the plane there. If people want to check you out, if you want to refresh us on your Instagram handle again, that'd be great.
It's at Jono, Jono Steedman, Steedman. That's really probably the best place. All roads point to that. I'm about 10 years late to starting a mailing list, but as of last night, kicked off a mailing list. So I'll be sending out some extra blog style information in that way. But yeah, even that can be accessed through Instagram. So that's really the one-stop shop.
Fantastic, mate, and really appreciate your insights on working from home and nutrition for performance for business owners. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. We will have all those links and any other show notes over at clinicmastery.com/podcast. And as always, really appreciate your honest reviews, ratings, and other feedback when it comes to the podcast. You can reach me directly at jack@clinicmastery.com. And on that note, Jono Steedman, thank you for joining us on the Grow Your Clinic podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Listeners, thank you for joining us. Can't wait to bring you another episode again really soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast. And please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.